You remember when people just disappeared? Not dramatically, not permanently. They simply moved, changed jobs, or graduated. And unless you had their home phone number written in a physical notebook, that was it. They became a memory you carried alone. If you were born between 1976 and 1985, you don't belong to a generation. You belong to a crossroads. Strip away the nostalgic illusions and face the cold reality. The exhaustion you feel is not physical fatigue. It is chronological exhaustion. The logical solution to feeling older than you are is to recognize that you are a biological bridge between two completely different eras of human consciousness. You are running a dual operating system in a world that only has room for one. Researchers call you a Xennial. You are the last humans to have a fully analog childhood and the first to have a fully digital adulthood. You remember the silence of a house before the internet, yet you navigate the cloud with the fluency of a native. This friction between the tactile past and the ethereal present is wearing you down in ways that younger generations cannot even conceive. Today, we are deconstructing the hidden psychology of the Xennial. Here are the 4 chapters of why you feel like you've lived a century in the span of 40 years. Chapter 1. The dual environment cognitive load. Psychologists are beginning to call this the analog-digital cusp. Your brain was wired during a developmental window, roughly ages 12 to 22, that was split exactly down the middle. You still feel a subconscious hit of dopamine when a physical phone rings, that you almost never answer it. You meticulously organize digital files into folders because you remember when finding something meant physically looking through a drawer. You are maintaining 2 completely separate operating systems in one brain. This creates a permanent dual environment cognitive load. Your brain has to translate every digital action through an analog value system. When you look at a sunset, you feel the urge to photograph it, followed immediately by a wave of exhaustion at the thought of sharing it. The logical solution is to realize that your burnout is actually a processing error. You are trying to find the stability of the analog world while competing in the volatility of the digital one. In modern terms, this is about neuroplasticity limits. Your formative years were spent in a low-stimulation environment that rewarded patience and follow-through. Your adulthood is spent in a high-saturation environment that rewards impulsivity and fragmented attention. You feel old because your brain is constantly refactoring its code to survive in a landscape it wasn't originally built for. Chapter 2. The internal locus of control. You were the primary agent of your own information origin. In your pre-digital years, if you wanted to know something, you went to a library. If you wanted to see someone, you had to be exactly where you said you'd be. Your outcomes depended entirely on your actions, your memory, and your follow-through. You grew up in a world where on time meant you were already late. This created a high internal locus of control. You trust yourself more than you trust the system. The logical solution to your current anxiety is to recognize your uncertainty tolerance. You know how to be bored. You know how to wait. You know how to fix things without a YouTube tutorial. But you are forced to live in a world that views these skills as obsolete, creating a profound sense of isolation. This translates to a modern, avoidance-secure, hybrid attachment. You are secure in your ability to survive offline, but you are avoidant of the hyper-surveillance of the modern social web. You feel older because you remember the safety of being anonymous. You are a guardian of the analog values in a world that keeps changing faster than anyone expected. Chapter 3. The Shift in Technical Utility. In the late 90s, technology was a destination. Today, it is a cage. You remember when the computer was a tool you sat down to use and then walked away from? You finished the task and the world went back to being quiet. Today, you are not using the technology. The technology is using you. You are the data. You are the content. You are the metric. Younger generations don't feel the weight of this because they have no baseline for silence. They don't know what they are missing. For the Xennial, this is a fundamental shift in utility. You are acutely aware that your tools have become your masters. The logical conclusion is that you aren't bad at tech. You are just the only ones who remember when tech had boundaries. The modern term for this is digital saturation fatigue. You are the cultural translator between the digital natives and the analog fossils. You manage the teams, you raise the children, you troubleshoot the Wi-Fi, and then you spend the weekend in the woods trying to find the silence you lost in 2005. Translation is exhausting work. Chapter 4. The Loss of the Shoebox Past. The final chapter of the Xennial experience is the death of the ability to forget. You grew up in the last era where mistakes were undocumented. Your teenage embarrassments and heartbreaks are safely tucked away in shoeboxes under beds, not indexed in a searchable database. You are grieving a version of humanity that allowed for growth without a witness. This creates a state of hypervigilance. You are constantly monitoring your digital footprint while mourning the time when a footprint was just something left in the dirt. As pause, the logical solution to this aging of the soul is to realize that your grief is a form of pattern recognition. You see exactly what has been lost in the phase transition of the human race. This is what we call temporal dissonance. You are mourning the patience that boredom used to build. You feel old because you are holding the memory of a slower, more deliberate species while watching the world accelerate into a feedback loop. You are a biological index of what it means to be human in both worlds. The final verdict. The feeling of being older is not premature aging. It is the psychological signature of a bridge. Bridges bear weight. That is what they were built for. You are the keepers of a transition that will never happen again in human history. You carry the dual environment cognition that allows you to see what was gained and what was lost. You aren't falling behind. You've just traveled further than most people realize. As you navigate this chronological exhaustion, remember, stability isn't something you find online. It is something you build in the physical world. Take a breath. The internet is a destination, but your life is the journey. Walk back to the back shop whenever you need to. Tell me in the comments, what is the one analog habit you refuse to give up, no matter how digital the world gets? I read every one. If this put words to the fatigue you carry, consider subscribing. Let's master the transition together. Thank you for watching.